All right, so imagine this. You're out there on the Texas coast, you're beach fishing, you got your drone out there, you're running your baits out just like you've always done, and you're just in the middle of a great hookup. You just hooked up into something good, and as you're bringing it in, you see the game warden coming down the beach, and next thing you know, he's threatening to confiscate all of your equipment and slap you with a hefty fine. What is going on? Is this just a hypothetical situation? Well, unfortunately, no. This may not be a hypothetical situation going into the future. As a matter of fact, as some on the internet are reporting, there's some interesting rules and definitions that Texas Parks and Wildlife is changing regarding drone activity. So we're going to get into that. We're going to explore it. Maybe there's something we're missing. Maybe it's not all doom and gloom like some people are talking about, but I'm going to go right to the Texas Parks and Wildlife website and read to you exactly what's going on there and also do some interpretive definitions. So let's get into that. But before we do, head over to wegofishing.store and pick up our popping corks. YouTube does not support this channel. I know that may sound strange. Everybody's like, sweet, sweet YouTube money. Yeah, I wish. But it's things like this. It's supporting the local creators through popping corks, the things that they sell. And we do sell popping corks. I make them all here myself. And so I would say go over and pick them up. They not only support the channel, but this is a great thing to add to your tackle box. They really do work extremely well. And right now we're offering 20% off your order of $14 or more, as well as $2 shipping. And we're gonna be doing that through the end of the year. So head over there, pick up your favorite popping corks today and put them in your arsenal. They do work very well and they make great stocking stuffers and gifts as well. So support our channel and head over to wegofishing.store. All right, so what does it say on Texas Parks and Wildlife? Well, I'm going to read it directly to you. This is under their frequently asked questions after you select on the game warden. So these are game warden questions that get asked, and this is one of their frequently asked questions. It says, what about drone unmanned aerial vehicles in hunting? Okay, so this is regarding hunting, but I want you to pay attention to the definitions. I think it's going to have a wider application. This is what it says. It says, except under permits issued by Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, the use of drones to hunt, dive, capture, take, count, or photograph any wildlife is unlawful. Requirements include an aerial management permit issued by Texas Parks and Wildlife and an approved land or own authorization department rules are adopted under the framework and guidelines of the Federal Airborne Hunting Act. The use of aircraft, including drones, to pursue or recover wildlife in association with recreational or sporting hunting activity is not permitted. Texas law does allow a hunter to contract as a subagent to participate in the taking of feral hogs and coyotes in accordance with the provisions of the AMP. Now get this. And this is where my concerns come in. Because I know you say maybe this is just about hunting, and that might be true, but I think there's some expansion here that's actually happening. It says, under federal law, it is a violation to use any aircraft for any of these activities unless a permit is issued by the respective state. Federal guidelines specify that states may not issue permits for sport hunting. Failure to comply with these rules may constitute a Class A misdemeanor and/or violations of the Federal Airborne Hunting Act. And then it says, here are some helpful definitions. So when the game warden or where the judge is going to say, how do we interpret these rules? This is what they say. These are some helpful definitions. Hunt means to capture, trap, take, or kill, or attempt to capture, trap, take, or kill. That makes sense, okay? So that's what they're saying, hunting. If you're attempting to capture, take, trap, or kill. Catch means to kill or includes an attempt to take or kill. And then this is a definition that I think becomes a little bit problematic for us anglers. He says this in the word take. Take, except otherwise provided by this code, means to, and then they add in a word that doesn't normally apply to hunting. It says, means collect, hook, hunt, net, shoot, or snare by any means or device, and includes an attempt to take or pursue in order to take. Now, that's where it gets a little fuzzy. That's where the gray area starts to come in. So you say, well, what does that mean? Well, this is all lawyerese. And I am not a lawyer. I am not giving you legal advice in this video. But what I did was I took these definitions and I put them into the AI. And I said, okay, how can we interpret this? What does this mean when it says hunt? Well, we're not hunting, we're fishing. Okay, so that's fine. But what about this attempt to capture, take, or kill? And then what about this idea of take and the expansion of that definition? How does this apply to us in regards to drone fishing? And so I put it into the AI, and this is what Grok says. And again, this is kind of interesting. It says how this applies to a drone, using a drone to fish. The list, hunt, hook, net, shoot, or snare, is not exhaustive. The phrase by any means or device immediately follows and broadens the definition enormously. And get this, courts and wildlife agencies consistently interpret this to mean that any method or device that results in capturing or killing a fish is prohibited or regulated take, unless that specific method is expressly allowed in the regulations. Then they further go on to say the courts have ruled that a drone is a device. So, an expansion of that, if you're using a drone to drop a baited hook, line, and reel in a fish, drop a lure, drop a net, carrying fishing line out beyond casting distance, spot fish, and then direct hook line to them, or directly hook and entangle fish with something suspended from the drone, then you are using a device to hook, net, snare, or otherwise pursue and capture fish, and that falls squarely within the definition of take by any means or device. So what do you think? What do you think? Do you agree with the AI or not? This is one of those things where I don't know. I would kind of be like, man, we're going to need some clarification on this. And I think Texas Parks and Wildlife, if they watch this video, if you are watching this video and you know somebody in Texas Parks and Wildlife, this is something that's got to be clarified, because there's a lot of people out there that are using drones for very legitimate reasons. I know that a lot of people that work with disabled people are using drones to get baits out there. A lot of shark fishermen are using them to get baits out there. Things that used to have to be done by kayaking or swimming the baits out there, or by some other means, is now going to be, the drones take over that. And so we really need some clarification from Texas Parks and Wildlife. But when I put it into the AI here, and I was using Gronk from X, when I put it in, it's the third point that it boiled down that really did concern me. And I want to read this to you. Almost every US state has a regulation that says something like, fish may only be taken by angling with a hook and line in hand or with rod and reel in hand. And they may explicitly list only legal methods. Anything outside those legal methods is illegal unless the state has written a specific exception for drones. And then it says this, almost none have. And when I'm looking at the regulations, I find nothing in them that say drones are a usable device. It says this, example of common prohibitions that catch drone fishing. No person shall fish with devices capable of simultaneously taking more than one fish. And they say drones can carry multiple lines. Now most don't. I mean, most drone fishermen that I've seen, they're taking one line out at a time. Then they're taking it out, 300 yards or so. So I don't think that. It says also no remote controlled fishing devices. Well, that definitely falls within a drone. No taking fish by aircraft or from the air. And again, the key there is the word take, because as Texas Parks and Wildlife expanded the definition of take to include an attempt to take. So if you're dropping it and you're putting a bait out there, I would have to think that that is an attempt to take. And then it goes on. It says Florida has explicitly stated that using a drone to fish is illegal. Texas Parks and Wildlife, get this, and this is where we have to realize this. And I looked up the case law, and it is true. Texas Parks and Wildlife has already begun citing people for drone fishing under the no aircraft rule. And what we're finding is that a lot of times what they're doing is they're classifying drones as an as an aircraft. Matter of fact, someone was talking about the other day, what happens if there's a drone flying over my house? Can I take it down? And said, no, you can't, because that's interfering with an aircraft. That's a federally regulated thing. And so what Texas Parks and Wildlife is doing is they're saying that this is an FAA thing, because the drone is an aerial vehicle and it's under the no aircraft rule. So this gets into some very technical stuff, and so sorry to be so esoteric, But I know that a lot of us, it's Christmas time. We're like, hey, I want a drone for Christmas. And so I'm like, hey, that may not be the best thing right now because there's a lot of clarification needed. And a lot of these questions I got to come into the forums and people had questions about them. And really, I didn't know how to advise them. So that's why I looked this up to try and figure out what was going on. This is the best information I can find. So let me know in the comments what you think. Maybe we're missing something. Maybe there's something obvious that we are missing in this. Maybe you say, hey, no, I think that's a plain reading. But the bottom line here, according to the AI even, it says, under the regulatory definition of take, which includes taking fish by any means or device, using a drone in virtually any way to locate, hook, lure, net, or land fish constitutes illegal take in the vast majority of U.S. jurisdictions and many other countries because drones are not an authorized fishing method and are considered an unauthorized device. So, Texas Parks and Wildlife, we need clarification. That's the bottom line in all of this. We need clarification. Are you going to allow us to because really, we have to apply the law consistently and equally. And we can't have some game wardens saying, hey, that's a legal device and you can do that, and then other game wardens saying that you can't do that. We need consistency across the board. And if they've already begun citing people for drone fishing, but I know that I've been out there, I've seen plenty of people drone fishing. I've seen game wardens go by, not do anything about it. So tell me your experience in the comments below. Let me know what you think about this. Do we need clarification? Is there something in the rules that I'm missing? Is there something in this language that doesn't make sense? Leave me all those comments in the comments below. I think this is a great discussion to have because we do need this clarification regarding this technology. And this is a personal side of things. I think it can be very useful. There are people that are disabled. There are people that can't get the baits out to where that they need to be in order to land these fish. You might say, well, if they can't get the baits out there, should they be landing the fish? That's probably another conversation for another day. But it does give accessibility to people that would otherwise not be able to do these things. Having said that, does that mean that we should have a special permit for them? Does that mean that everybody should have access to this technology to use for fishing? Is this even sporting to use? All those questions about the efficacy and things about that regarding drone fishing all come into question, and it really should be something that we think about and gain clarification on. One of the things that I've learned in my life is it's not often answered by can I do it, but it's answered by should I do it? And I think that applies here to drone fishing. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know what you think Texas Parks and Wildlife should do. And again, head over to our website, wegofishing.store. Pick up your popping corks today. I want to get those into your hands. People are catching tons of fish with them, and they are really great. Right now, 20% off your order, $14 or more, and also $2 shipping until the end of the year. Take advantage of that. Until next time, may the fish be with you, and God bless.